Welcome to the world of exploration. Welcome to the world of learning. Let's start exploring. Let's start learning with your very own educator, teacher, philosopher, guide, mentor, teacher, teacher, one and all. And this is the one stop destination wherein we can actually learn together, grow together, evolve together, bloom together, and blossom together, right? So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. So in today's session, uh, just a minute. So in today's session, I'll be covering Going Places, right? Which is written by A.R. Barton, right? All right. It's not visible, is it? No, it isn't. Doesn't matter. Just give me a sec. Yeah, it is. So we have Going Places. I hope it is visible. I think it is visible. So I'll just check, and in the meanwhile, you can have your books ready because you need to be having your physical books as well. Yeah. Physical books. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we are gonna study about the author. So A.R. Barton is a modern writer who lives in Zurich and writes in English. So in the story, Going Places, Barton explores the theme of adolescent fantasizing and hero worship, right? So here are some of the expressions that we will be having a look at. So as it is mentioned, it's a kind of a pre-reading exercise that is, so you need to notice these expressions in the text in their context, right? And you need to infer their meaning from their context. What is their context? In which context have these words been used? Yeah. So for example, we have incongruity, then we have prodigy, then we have uh, shaft, then we have solitary elm and arcade, amberglyph, right? Wharf, pangs of doubt, right? So these are the expressions that you need to uh, be aware of. Now, we'll be starting off with this chapter. This is a very interesting, fascinating chapter. I also would like to share with you. Give me a moment. I'd also like to share. Yeah. So, as I have already discussed about the author, so do like, share, subscribe to my channel, and you can directly message me on this number. Join Wisdom Era family and grow with us, right? So, yeah. So we have these phrases. Now we are gonna have a look at the meanings of these phrases, right? So let me just check. You can go through it. In the meanwhile, I'll just check whether it is. We are gonna start look at the meaning. It is very much visible. So we get to see incongruity. So it is something that seems out of place or does not match its surroundings. For example, we can say there was an incongruity between his words and his actions, that his actions didn't actually support his words, right? Then we can come on to prodigy. So it's a person, it's especially used for a person, especially a child with exceptional talent or ability, right? For example, herein you can make use of it like she's a musical prodigy who began performing at age 5. So it can be about academics, it can be about music, it can be about dance, it can be about theater, it can be about, you know, gardening, whichever field or arena you're good at, right? Then you have chef. So it is very pleased, being proud or happy. Mainly it is used in British English. So you have several types of English. I mean, you have English, which is like kind of used in different contexts altogether, right? So, yeah. So we have, he was shoved to win the competition, right? Then we have solitary elm. So it's a single elm tree which is standing alone. So, for example, we have the solitary elm, which stood in the middle of the field, right? So we have for example, the solitary elm stood in the middle of the field, right? Then we have arcade. So it's a covered passage with shops on one or both sides, or a row of arches, we can say, supporting a building, right? So herein we can take an example of, we walked through the shopping arcade. So even in your college, or even in your, uh, if you're talking about shopping complex, you do have, arcades. So you walk through the shopping arcade. Okay. Then we have amber glow. It's a kind of a warm golden yellow light. So whenever you have to describe something warm, you use this word, right? For example, the sunset filled the room with an amber glow, right? Then we have wharf. So it's a kind of a structure which is built along the edge of a river. So it's a kind of a structure which is built along the edge of a river, lake, or sea, which ships, where ships can load and unload goods or passengers. So, for example, the fishing boats were tied up at the wharf, right? A structure built along the edge of a river, lake, or sea, where ships can load and unload goods and passengers, right? Then we have pangs of doubt. So she felt pangs of doubt before making the final decision. So sometimes you also have a lot of doubts coming up, right? In these sessions but it shouldn't be, because I am teaching you, so but otherwise, yeah, definitely you're having doubts, having curiosity to ask questions. Being curious is something that is a sign of being genius. That's what I consider, because I have always been that kind of a student. But yeah, so she felt pangs of doubt before making the final decision. So do like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do not forget to hit the notification bell icon so that you get notified whenever I upload any such informative educational video that is going to help you out. You can even reach out to us by directly messaging us on the given number and join our Wisdom YouTube family. Wisdom Era YouTube family. Right? Clear? All right. So I hope I have made myself clear. In the meanwhile, if you want, you can. I'll give you 2 seconds to just have a kind of a glimpse of what we have done. Yeah. So All right. So I think uh, now it's done. You have done the skimming and scanning, right? So I just wanted you to skim through these notes, to skim through this information so that you get a better understanding when we start reading the lesson. All right. Hi, Anurag. Yeah, I do. I do. I do remember you, Anurag. All right. Yeah. Uh, I remember everyone. Majority of you. All right. If you have any doubt, you can let me know. Let's proceed and let's start with this chapter going places. Is it done in this skill or it's left, Anurag? All right. I'll just continue. All right. Um, where was I? Yeah, over here. So we are gonna start off. Have seen all these expressions and we have seen the meaning of these expressions, right? Now we're gonna delve deep into the lesson, right? And we are going to figure it out how this lesson goes and flows, right? Like a river, like an ocean. So when I leave, Sophie said, coming home from school, I am going to have a boutique. Now we are going to meet some characters like you meet your friends in your school. You are also gonna be making friends. You can think like that, right? So that you sort of tend to remember it better. So when I leave, Sophie said, coming home from school. So she's also a student like you guys, and she's also an adolescent. That means because she's going to school, right? So she's also an adolescent, and we are going to talk about what happens in adolescent stage. How do what is the psyche of adolescents? How do adolescents respond and react? What kind of dreams do they nurture? For example, Anurag or any other child who has joined, you also might be having your dreams, dreams for tomorrow. So, whatever dreams you have nurtured, uh, you are right now at that particular stage wherein you are carving out dreams for yourself, right? So similarly, what do we get to see over here? We get to see that when I leave, Sophie said, coming home from school, I'm going to have a boutique. Like she also dreamt of having a boutique, of owning a book, of owning one, right? Of owning a boutique. Jancy is her friend. Now we also get to see like you have friends. She also had a friend. So Sophie and Jancy, they're friends. They're very very good friends, right? So Jancy linking arms with her along the street looked doubtful now, but she was doubtful because she was realistic. She knew the reality, so she was very practical in nature, right? So we can say that Sophie represented the dream world, and Jancy represented the practical, the rational world, or the rational lens, the practical lens, and Sophie is viewing it from the lens of and fantasy, right? It's a kind of a fantasy that she has, or fancy, imagination. Through her imagination, she will see throughout the journey of Sophie and Jency, how Sophie, you know, um, drives herself into uh, the lanes of imagination, right? So Jency, linking arms with her along the street, look doubtful. Takes money, Soph, that's her nickname, right? So something like that. I'll find it, Sophie says. So she was staring far down the street. Take you a long time to save that much? Will be a manager then. So now, what is her second dream? So you all also might be having dreams. So if you don't only have one dream, you want to be everything, right? So similarly, here, she also dreams about becoming an actress. She also dreams about, will be a manager then. So she has a dream of having a boutique, of owning a boutique, of being a manager, of becoming an actress. So all these dreams, which is like very very, I'm 100% sure that you guys can relate to it, because you as adolescents also might be in this position right now, that you sometimes, and most of the times, you aren't able to decide what to do, which line in should you choose, which line should you go into, right? So sometimes you might be thinking of becoming a doctor, sometimes a lawyer, sometimes a teacher, sometimes having a boutique, owning a boutique, sometimes having your own business, sometimes carrying forward the business, sometimes mm, I mean, becoming an actor or an actress, right? So we, and because, yeah, becoming an actor or actress, is it's the dream, I think, that everybody nurtures, and of becoming a teacher too. These two dreams, and becoming a doctor too. I think these three dreams everybody nurtures, right? So then, we'll be a manager then. Yes, of course. To begin with, till I've got enough. Obviously, till I've got enough. But anyway, I know just how it's all going to look, right? They wouldn't make you manager straight off. So they are not just gonna be now. Basically, Gen Z is suggesting and saying that they'll just not make you manager straight off. Look, it's not. It looks very easy, but it isn't very easy. It isn't that easy at all, in fact, right? So to begin with, till I've got enough. But anyway, I know just how it's all going to look. So she is very confident about her dreams and how to pursue them, right? So they wouldn't make you manager straight off. So I'll be like Mary Quant. Sophie said, I'll be a natural. They'll see it from the start. I'll have the most amazing shop this city's ever seen. So she keeps on comparing herself, that she will be like, for example, if you say today that I'll be like Shah Rukh Khan, I will own the entire nation. I'll be the king of India, of Dubai, of this country, of that nation. I'll rule all over the world. I'll, is it possible to be just like him? No. Everybody has, everybody is different, and everybody has different destinies. Everybody has different paths. So everybody, you just cannot. And what I would say is that you can't compare your journey with anyone else, and you shouldn't even compare your journey or your dreams or your path with anyone else, because you have the kind of personality that you own. Nobody else owns that. And the kind of problems, the kind of difficulties, the kind of uh, the kind of fabric that you have woven uh, the kind of solutions that you have come up that nobody can come up with. So everybody is unique, but adolescents are in that position wherein they constantly compare themselves with one another or with personalities, and then they feel like that they will be like them. Why do you want to be like them in the very first place? That's my perspective, because I feel that you just have to be yourself. That's my take, right? So I'll be like, so she's over here comparing herself, that I'll also have an amazing shop uh, that this city's ever seen. Um, that means she has very high hopes and very high dreams. Then Jency, knowing they were both earmarked for the biscuit factory, became melancholy. She basically wished Sophie wouldn't say things. So Jency over here is suggesting that knowing that they were both, basically they were both chosen because their destiny, they were not very well off, right? So when somebody is not very well off, when somebody is not wealthy or is not having, the kind of money that is required, especially in the kind of professions that she actually had selected or chosen, um, they have their own destinies. Their destinies are all are already decided, right? So either by their parents, or by their families, or by the societies, by the society, right? So Jancy, knowing that they were both, she knew Jancy, her friend, was very practical and she was realistic in her approach. She knew that both of them, whether it be Sophie, whether it be Jancy, they had to ultimately be in and do the work that was required in the biscuit factory. And uh, uh, by this, they became melancholic in nature. That means sad. They were agonized, right? So she wished Sophie wouldn't say these things. So now she's basically, thinking about that Sophie wouldn't say these things, these kind of things that she is actually uttering. Then when they reached Sophie's street, Jancy said, "It's only a few months away now. So you really should be sensible." So now when they reached Sophie's street, Jancy, her friend, as I've told you, that Jancy is her whose friend? Sophie's friend, right? It's only a matter of few months away now. So you really should be sensible enough now. For example, if I tell you that, guys, you should be sensible enough now. You are grown ups, and before your boards, you should start preparing, because after this is, getting good score, getting good marks, getting good grades in your boards would actually make your career, or would decide which college you end up in, right? So and also preparing for whatever examinations you have, it depends on which stream you have chosen, right? All right. All right. Then where was I? So they don't pay well for shop work. You know that your dad would never allow it. So she's suggesting that they don't pay well for shop work. So uh, the kind of work that they would be doing, they will not be getting that enough money. They won't be getting that the amount that they deserve. You know that your dad would never allow it. You know, so or an actress. So then she comes up with another one. So now she comes up with uh, being an actress. So she wants to be an actress now. Just look at how she's stepping from one category to another, and from a second category to the third category. So these are the different fields, these are the different arenas, these are the different professions that actually she has come up with, right? And that she really wants to get involved in, right? Or choose or select, right? Or become. So, or an actress. Now there's real money in that. Now obviously everybody knows that there's a lot of money. I mean, before the advent of AI, not now. I don't think. I think now things will change. But before that, becoming an actress, a renowned one, or an actor, you would acquire a lot of wealth and money. So now there's real money in that. Yes, and I would maybe have the boutique on the side. And now she's even dreaming of having a boutique. Now, can you imagine what kind of imagination she was actually drawing, and the kind of web that was being created. First, she'll be an actress, and side by side, she'll also indulge in making money through opening a boutique. Now, that's something that now nowadays actually actresses have started doing. On the other side, that's a side hustle. Even for that matter, now you students also have started doing that. So actresses don't work full time, do they? Anyway, that are fashion designers. So she says, all obviously, actresses, they don't work full time. So they they would be free. Then in my free time, I would be doing my boutique work, right? So I'll end up making a lot of profit out of it. So and anyway, that are a fashion designer. So she now suggests, now she again, see, can you see her think, the pattern in which she's actually thinking? So anyway, that are a fashion designer. Now fashion designer, something a bit sophisticated. So she's actually wanting to see or have a sophisticated profession. She's looking for a sophisticated profession that she can actually enter in. But somehow her circumstances, somehow her situation, somehow things don't allow that, to happen. So, but she's far, far, far away from the reality. And she turned into the open street there, leaving jeans standing in the rain. If ever I come into money, I'll buy a boutique. So if now she's saying, if ever I come into money, I will definitely and surely buy a boutique. If you ever come into money, if you ever come into money, you'll buy us a blessed, decent house to live in. Thank you very much. So for them, for in fact all of us, for all the middle class people, or upper middle class people, lower middle class people, especially buying or owning a house, owning a decent home, is something that is, I think, a kind of a dream. So first and foremost, they are actually, thinking about it. That first we need to have, see, look, this is something that is the matter, and this is something that is required. So Sophie's father was scooping shepherd's pie into his mouth as he could go, his plump face still grimy and sweat marked from the day. So we can see that the description, physical description has been given, the portrait has been um, sketched out over here, and the characteristics, the character sketch has been drawn, right? So he had plump face and which was still creamy in nature, and it was sweat. It was because he was working very hard, and it marked from uh, throughout the day. It he was very he toiled hard, right? She drinks money. I'm so sorry. I'll just come back. Money. Yeah, actually, she drinks money also. Yeah. Yeah. Come back. Come back. So she thinks money grows on trees. She actually thinks money grows on trees. Don't she, Dad? Said little Derek, hanging on the back of his father's chair. So, who is Derek? You are gonna see who is Derek. How are they related? Their mother's side. So, that means Derek is Sophie's brother. Whose brother? Sophie's brother, right? Their mother's side. Sophie watched her back, stooped over the sink, and wondered at the incongruity of the delicate bow, which fastened her apron strings, the delicate seeming bow, and the crooked and the crooked and the crooked back. The evening had already blacked in the windows, and the small room was steamy from the stove and cluttered with a heavy breathing. Breathing man in his vest at the table, and the dirty washing piled up in the corner. Sophie felt a tightening in her throat for her brother Geoff. Sorry, Derek is not. Uh, mm, मेरा दिमाग कहाँ पे गया था? Wait a second, come back. Drinking के चक्कर में मेरा सारा गड़बड़ हो गया. Wait. So Geoff is her brother, Sophie's brother, right? So Sophie felt a tightening in her throat. She went to look for her. He was kneeling on the floor in the tinkering, tinkering with a part of his motorcycle over some newspapers spread on the carpet. He was 3 years old, an apprentice mechanic, traveling to his work each day to the far side of the city. He was almost now, and she suspected areas of his life about which she knew nothing, about which he never spoke. He said ever voluntarily. Words had to be like seriously prized out of him, like stones out of the ground. Like you pick stones from the ground. So words taken out from his mouth. So, and she was jealous of his silence, and she was very much jealous of his silence, right? When he wasn't speaking, it was as though he was away somewhere. So when he didn't, speak, so it seemed as if he was somewhere out there in the world, in those places that she can actually never go, or she has not visited. So she has never been to those places, which she used to wonder in her, and she, while thinking, uh, thinking about it, she used to think that he is going to certain places that are, that he's hiding from her, that he doesn't want to disclose those places which he visits, because obviously he was basically an apprentice, a mechanic, who used to travel to his work each day, to the far side of the city. So he used to go to the far side of the city. So he did to he was not only placed at the center, but he used to go at the he used to travel throughout the boundaries too. So he was almost grown up now, and she suspect, and because he was her elder brother, so she suspected areas of his life which she knew nothing about and which he never spoke. That, and this I've explained, that he almost was very kind of didn't speak much. He was not so outspoken, right? Like how I am. So I'm also not outspoken. I'm also reserved, and I'm also very very shy, right? An introvert, you can say. So whether they were only the districts of the city or places beyond in the surrounding country, who knew? So she is now, trying to figure it out where he actually goes. Outlying districts of the city, does he go over there, or places beyond in the surrounding country? Where does he actually land up, right? So just trying to figure it out. So who knew? They attained a special fascination simply because they were unknown to her and and remained and remained out of her reach, right? Perhaps there were also people, exotic, interesting people, of whom he never spoke. So perhaps we also get to see that there were also, people and she's now thinking about, she's thinking on these lines because she's thinking that it might be, there's a probability, there is a possibility, right? Perhaps there were also people, exotic, interesting people of whom he never spoke. It was possible, though he was quiet and didn't make new friends easily, he longed to know them. So um, he was, you can say he was kind of, you can even say that he was kind of reserved because even, you know, he, he was very quiet and didn't make new friends easily. So introverts, there is this quality of, or an attribute or a characteristic of introverts as well, that they can't make friends easily, new friends easily, right? And they're quiet in nature, they're reserved in nature. So she longed to know him, she longed to know them. She longed to know about who he was actually meeting, who he knew. So she longed to know each and every person. So she longed to know them, right? She wished she could be admitted more deeply into her brother's affection. Take her with her. Take. So she wished admitted more deeply into her brother's affections, that her brother actually tells her everything, whatever he's doing, whatever he's up to, whoever he's meeting, whoever he is having conversation with, and that someday he might take her where, on on his motorcycle, obviously because he was a motor mechanic, right? Could go out with him, right, on his motorbike, though their father forbade it, and Geoff had never expressed an opinion. She knew he thought her too young. And although Geoff also, but the father obviously said no. And, Geoff, we get to see a brother, had never expressed an opinion, but she didn't, she was aware about, she knew that what he thought about her, that his in his opinion and in his father's opinion, she was too young for it, and she was impatient, right? She was conscious of a vast world out there waiting for her, and she knew instinctively that she would feel as at home there as in the city, which had always been her home. So basically, she knew he thought, and she was impatient. But we also find how her nature is like. So here, her nature has been described that she was impatient. She was conscious of a vast world out there waiting for her, and she knew instinctively that she would feel as at home there as in the city, which had always awaited her arrival. Awaits her arrival. She saw herself riding there behind Geoff, as I have mentioned. So she actually dreamed, she actually, and in her imagination, she has already, done that. So that she's, she saw herself riding. She has already imagined that she's riding, and sitting behind Geoff, that is her brother. He wore new shining black leathers, and she a yellow dress with a kind of a cape that flew out behind. There was a sound of applause. There was a sound of applause as the world rose to greet them, right? So he wore new shining black leathers, and you have to note this down that what was he wear in her imagination, although again a reminder, ting 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 bell. जस्ट किडिंग, थोड़ा सा ह्यूमर लाने से ना पढ़ाई अच्छी हो जाती है. सो आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू ब्रिंग इन सम ह्यूमर, and I'm trying also my little best to make it a bilingual session so that everybody can understand. And yeah, all right. So he wore. So what he, according to her imagination, vivid imagination, we can say, because it's very vivid, because she is describing it like it is real, but it is not, right? He wore new shining black leathers, and she a yellow dress. Black shining black leathers, remember that. uh and she a yellow dress with a kind of a cape that flew out behind. There was a sound of applause as the world rose to greet them, and there was this sound because her imagination was so wild, like you people, like you guys have, that it can run anywhere. It can run anywhere, and it can think of all sorts of either sane things or insane things. That's up to you, and that's up to your mind. But please train your mind to have sane things, you know. So she a yellow dress with a kind of a cape that flew out behind. So cape is like you are just a Superman, Spider-Man वगैरह को देखा होगा ना. So like that you can also imagine like that. So and people are applauding, and they're rising in order to greet them, she and her brother. So how much time? 43. All right, so I'll end my session over here. I'll be carrying forward my session from he sat frowning at the only component he cradled in his hands, as though it were a small dumb animal, and he was willing it to speak. I met Danny Casey. From here, a new chapter of her life would start, and we are gonna see the kind of turn, how her life, how she invents or shapes, what turn does her life takes, right? So I'll be ending my session over here. This is Sukriti Joshi ma'am signing off. All right, see you soon, and do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell icon so that you get notified whenever I upload any such informative and educational video. For now, this is Sukriti Joshi ma'am signing off. Till then, stay tuned and do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Bye. Bye.